This is a real house in New Zealand that sold for just $1. And this one sold for over $2 million. Now, even though the median house in our country costs about 770 grand, some homes are way cheaper and some are much more expensive. So in this video, you're gonna see the best area to buy, whether your budget is $1, $100,000, $300,000, all the way up to $2 million. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ed, an economist and property investor at Opes Partners. And one of the things that grinds my gears is when I hear people think that because the average house price in our country is just under $800,000, that's how much they think they need to buy a house. But in reality, if the median house price is 770 grand, that means that half the houses in our country sell for less than that amount and half sell for more than that. And that's why it surprises some people to hear that even though the average is about 770K, more houses sell in the $600,000 range than in the $700,000 range, even though 770K is the average. So let's see what your money buys, whether your budget is as high as $2 million or more, or as little as a single dollar. Because this house really did sell for a single dollar. It's not just some random shack in the middle of nowhere, it's actually smack bang in the middle of Auckland in the old railway station. And all 4 of the cheapest property sales in New Zealand for all 2024 were in this building. And that's because these apartments are leasehold. So even though they can rent for between $480 and $620 a week and look like a cash cow from the outside, you don't own the land underneath. So you've got to pay what's called ground rent to the person who owns the land each week. And sometimes that ground rent, it gets so high that people literally give the property away for just a single dollar. So yes, you can buy a property for $1, but you might not want to. But hey, if that's your budget, it'll surprise you. But the best and maybe the only place to buy is in this specific part of Auckland. But what if you could stretch that budget a little further? Let's say up to $100,000. Well, believe it or not, 221 properties sold for under $100,000 over the last 12 months. And over 3 out of 4 of those were still in our largest and most expensive city, Auckland. Like way ahead of Christchurch, where only 6 houses sold for less than 6 figures over the last year. But let's say you did buy in Christchurch, you might have bought this house. And this time, it's not an apartment. You got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a swimming pool, and it just sold for a touch over $60,000. That ain't bad. Now, there are some catches. Again, it's leasehold, and in this case, there's only 21 years left on the lease. So in just over 2 decades, if you'd bought this property, you don't get to live there anymore, you've got to move out. But at this price range, you've got to make some compromises. You're either buying a tiny apartment or a property that's got more than a few strings attached, or maybe if you can find it, be a plot of land. But if I was looking for ultra low price properties between $2 and up to $100,000, I probably would start my search in Christchurch. Now, I'm not saying it's the best property, but that's probably the best property you could buy for this budget. But let's see what happens if you can stretch it a little further. What if you look at properties that are priced between 100 and 200K? Well, your best bet is to look at the West Coast. This is the part of the South Island that's got some of the cheapest houses in the country. I mean, for just $180,000, you could have got this 4-bedroom character cottage on a massive 1,000 square meter section in Westport. Now, this property, it obviously needs a reno. It's pretty rough. But if you're handy or you're up for a project, maybe this is what you're after. Just keep in mind that this part of the country is one of the only places where the population is currently shrinking. It's going down. And it is a small town, and so that does make me worried about the future resale value. But hey, that's probably the case for all of these properties on the more affordable end. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as an investment, but if you said to me, Ed, here's your budget, go find a house for between 100 and 200K, the West Coast, that's where I'd start looking first. Now let's kick it up a notch. Let's skip ahead to 300K to 400K. Let's say that's your budget. Where are we going to start looking? Hands down, without a doubt, Invercargill. Because just over 8% of houses that sell within this price range are in our southernmost city of New Zealand. So book a flight south because you could buy a house like this. It's got 2 bedrooms, was built just 5 years ago, and recently sold for $390,000. Now, it probably ain't your forever home, it ain't that flash, but put it in the middle of Auckland and it'd be worth $1 million or more. And hopefully when you hear that over the last 12 months, more than 3,000 properties sold in that 300 to 400k range. And hopefully that gives you some hope that maybe there is a house out there for you. And look, I can't wave some sort of magic wand and make it so that 300 to 400k gets you your forever dream home. And I can't make it so that 300 to 400k gets you a house even in the city that you currently live in. But what I can do is show you what's out there, because maybe it'll make you feel a little more like buying a house is within your reach. Whether it's your first home, your next home, or an investment property, it might make you feel like buying a house is a little more possible than before you watch this video. And if you're looking at all of these properties online, one of the big questions you might have is, well, which one is right for me and which is the best investment? And that's the reason why I built Opes Plus for you guys here on this channel. It's a free property platform where you put in your property or one that you're looking to buy, and it tells you which one's the better investment. It's simple and it's free, and there's a link in the description. It takes just 2 minutes to register. Now, if you've got a budget somewhere between that $500,000 to 600k range, you can still find some real gems, especially at a place like Deletion. So this is more of a first home. It's a pretty tidy 1890s bungalow, so it is old, and it recently sold for $585,000. It's got 4 bedrooms, and it's got some pretty quirky features like a mezzanine loft bed. But you could really see someone loving this place. So if it's for you to live in as your own home, I'm probably thinking Dunedin for this price range, and you can find some nice affordable properties with some proper character. If it was me looking for an investment, I'd probably jump in my car and head back up to Christchurch, because 19% of properties that sell for between that 500 to 600k range are in the Garden City. And by my numbers, Deletion still looks a little bit overvalued. Christchurch is a bit undervalued. But we've got 3 more price ranges to look at, and we've only just got to the average price property in New Zealand, which are those that sell for between $700,000 to $800,000. At this level, the game shifts. You can expect to buy something that's very comfortable. And one of the best places where I see your dollar stretching quite far is in both Rolleston and Kaiapoi. Now, these 2 cities are both about 15 to 20 minutes outside of Christchurch, and Rolleston is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. I mean, 25 years ago, less than 4,000 people lived there. Today, it's nudging up to about 40,000 people, and it just keeps growing. You can get a brand new 4-bedroom, 2-bath, double garage family home like this one here, and it's a really nice family home. And I just think that the fact that you can get this in a decent sized city is probably the reason why Rolleston has really taken off over the last few decades. But make sure you stick around to see my top place to buy if your budget is $2 million or more. But just before we get to that, what if you could afford a property worth just a touch over $1 million? Where do you start looking? Well, if you want to look at properties that sell within this range, Auckland absolutely dominates. Just under half of properties that sell within this price range are in Auckland. Now, what does that get you? Maybe a house in Mangere Bridge, which I actually think is one of the most underrated suburbs in Auckland. I've actually got 2 investment properties in this suburb. And for just over $1 million, you could buy this pretty tidy 3-bedroom house with a view over the park. But to be honest, if I was looking at an investment, I probably wouldn't spend $1 million in Auckland. I'd probably target somewhere around that 700 to 900k range at the moment. So if you're an investor with $1 million budget, maybe you'd start looking at Wellington City and be targeting really high yield multi-income properties, because that can give you 2 income streams, so you get a really strong rental return. And if you want to stay one step ahead of the market, I actually send out a free newsletter every month. And the way this works is you tell me which part of the country you want to get data on, and I just send it to you each month. That way you get the latest numbers based on whatever the market changes are, and I'll drop a link down to that in the description. And that brings us to our final price range. What can you get and where do you buy if your budget is $2 million or more? Well, you're probably imagining a mansion in Auckland, maybe a place in Queenstown with a view of the mountains. And I was really surprised that you could buy this, what looks like a brand new place in Queenstown, for just over $2 million. And I thought that was pretty sharp for this part of the world. Now, if you're buying as an investment though, At this stage, you're probably thinking more about cash flow and multi-income properties as opposed to capital growth. So you might actually buy something like a boarding house, a dual key home, or even a hostel. And to be honest, at this point, location doesn't matter as much. What really matters is the numbers. But you might look at something like this in the heart of Wellington, where for $2.5 million, you get a 5-bedroom house, an 11-bedroom boarding house, plus 16 commercial storage lockers. Add up all the rental income, and you might get close to $150K of income after you pay all of the costs, which is about a 6 to 7% net yield, which is pretty sharp. But again, at this stage, as an investor, it's probably less about location and more about the numbers. And honestly, you might find that it's better to buy 3 $700K properties rather than one $2.1 million property. But there you have it, from a $1 apartment in Auckland to a $2 million multi-income property. This video proves one thing, which is that while the average property in our country costs $800,000, you don't have to spend $800K to get a house in New Zealand. But if you are going to buy a property, how do you figure out what's the right one for you? Well, in this next video, I'm going to show you how to find the right investment property in 2025.